My name is Javi Trujillo, and I am the Flash fan. You're watching another episode of Up to Speed with Wally West. So, before we get into the meat of today's episode, let's do a little housekeeping, shall we? As I record this episode, it is June 15th, 2023. So, The Flash is making its advanced preview night, Thursday preview night, tonight ahead of tomorrow's official release day. There's already been a ton of screenings about the movie that lots of people had plenty of opportunities to see it ahead of time. We got to see it last week. Quick thoughts on that. We got to see it last week here in Texas, and I did that one IOTA screening. There was a Wednesday night that was open that I was shooting for, and my friend Chris Owens, I do have a friend named Chris Owens, but this is a different guy. My friend Chris Evans. No, not that Chris Evans. He's another Chris Evans, but he's just as awesome. Let me know that they had Thursday nights in my part of town as well, and I applied for that one, and actually heard back fairly quickly that we were accepted into that screening. So we went down there. They said don't line up before 5. We got there 5:15ish. I was a little worried because I was afraid we'd be turned away. But I've heard from a couple other people that they didn't have that problem. So we got there a little after 5:15, just found people milling about. And we went to go scan and check in. They're like, the usher was like, we don't know about this screening. What? Like, we drove all the way across town in rush hour to see this movie and you guys don't even know about it? We weren't jerks or anything, but they're like, all these people started showing up. We don't know anything about it. It's not on our calendar. We're trying to get a hold of like the upper management to see what they know. Because movie theater back in the day used to have a print, a physical print, and now it's all like digital files. So we just should we have a line then or something? Because people got there before us. And he's like, yeah, that's a good idea. I'm like, you think? I used to work in a movie theater, so they started forming a line. We waited in line, just kind of waiting to hear the word. And they're like, well, if the host shows up, then the host shows up and we'll have the movie, I guess. But it might be, 7 o'clock instead of 6:30. We're like, that's fine, as long as we get to see it. And the host did show up, and it's a guy that I've recognized from just hosting screenings in our area for the last decade plus. So as soon as he walked in the door, I'm like, that's the dude. I was with my fiance, Brooke. I'm like, that's the guy. He's the guy that was there at Batman v Superman. He was there when my daughter and I saw Princess and the Frog early. Like, this is the guy. Screening's going to happen. So, very excited that it wasn't for nothing. And at that point, the line was actually going out the door. So very excited to not be waiting in the heat and to be waiting inside. They checked us in, gave us a Flash poster. It was in the Batcave, and there's the Flash in the background, but it's not the one that has been out before. This was like art. Not to say that isn't art, but that was like a photo. This was actually like drawn. So got in there, got to see the movie. It was full, but the theater, because of the recliner seats, felt very spaced out. So it didn't feel like we were crammed in with a bunch of people. The reaction was good. A lot of cheers and laughter, and I had a good time. Didn't necessarily get... it's hard not to hear the rumors of who's going to be in this thing. And I knew for sure that some people weren't going to be in, but maybe had filmed stuff, but it wasn't going to be included. And that turned out to be mostly true. Try not to spoil anything if you haven't seen it yet. But overall, I had a great time. It's hard to compare it when you've had like 3 Spider-Man multiverse movies recently. But it did that for The Flash and for the DC Universe. And it's something that, it's been a long time coming, right around the same time as Spider-Man No Way Home. So just for this Flashpoint idea. But even back then, like, we were supposed to have a Flash movie in 2018. So the fact, after how many directors and scripts and cast, the fact that we're actually here now, it's been filmed, people have seen it, and now the whole world's going to get to see it. It's pretty awesome as a Flash fan. So we'll do a video later where we talk about more of the ins and outs. But overall, I'd probably give it like a B plus and A minus. It was really enjoyable. Plan is to go see it tonight. This was going to be our first night to see it, had we not found an advanced screening. But now I get to go with my kids, so that'll be awesome to share it with them. My daughter and I watched the Justice League Flashpoint Paradox movie again last night as prep, and she's been watching the Keaton movies with us and Man of Steel. So I've got her ready. So very much looking forward to that tonight. Also, since the last time I recorded one of these, the Flash TV show has ended. Yeah, that was a finale that I watched. I kind of mentioned this before, I haven't been as pleased with the post-COVID seasons as I was with prior ones. And unfortunately, that feeling continued for a lot of this season as well. The 4-part season finale started off really strong. I really appreciated, mild spoilers here, having Eddie Thawne back as Cobalt Blue. I thought that was a fun way to go. But again, Wally West villain. Yeah, he's a Wally West villain. Come on. And it like I said, it started off strong, but then the story went to other characters, and at the end of the day, it didn't feel like a Flash story. It felt like an Eddie Thawne story that the Flash was just kind of in. And that's not how I would have wanted 9 years of this show to go. A lot of people were brought back, a lot of people didn't come back. So that's also kind of disappointing from a fan perspective, but there's logistics to consider, and it's not like a comic where you can draw whoever you want. Like, you have to get people and pay them the right amount and time and schedules and all that. So I get it. I was very happy to see John Wesley Shipp. They released promo photos for the episode that had him and the other evil speedsters that were coming back, so it wasn't really a secret. And yeah, it ended. I hope the cast and crew enjoy their next jobs as much as they enjoyed this one, if not more so. And it was an uneven series by the end of the day, but I did love it a lot, especially the earlier seasons. And we'll see. Now we're in limbo with Superman and Lois, where it's getting a season 4, but it's going to be shorter, and they released most of the main cast. So we'll see what's in store for DC on TV. But in the meantime, go see The Flash if you haven't already seen it yet. And let's get down to business, because while we're here to talk about The Flash, we're here to talk about Wally West. So enough about Barry Allen. Sorry, Peter. But we're going to lay down some Flash facts for you. So The Flash #2, which is what we're focusing on today, was released May 27th, 1987 per DC Universe Infinite. Credits are as follows. Mike Barron is the writer, Jackson Geis penciler, Larry Malstead inker, Steve Haney letterer, Carl Gafford colorist, and Mike Gold was the editor. And of course, Wally West was created by John Broome and Carmine Infantino. So, getting up to speed. This issue was called Heart of Stone. So, picking up from last issue's cliffhanger, Vandal Savage is inside Wally's apartment. Wally, who just found out he won the lottery moments before finding a gift-wrapped heart left by Vandal, lovely, swiftly changes into his Flash uniform. Vandal monologues about how he used his computer to find Flash, but realizes the man underneath the mask is not his greatest enemy. Cue Wally's inferiority complex over that, right? So Vandal is so old that he has powers that he's forgotten about. Like, can you imagine being that old that you forgot all the things that you could do? But case in point, he has spun a containment around Wally's apartment. So if the speedster steps out, he will be sent to some weird hell dimension. So Vandal's there to kill Wally to maintain his anonymity so he can continue to catalog his powers. Oh, and to recharge them as well, which means he wants to drink the Flash's blood. Tastes great, less filling. They fight, and Wally further injuring his hand. Last issue, he hit a hijacker like 30 times in the face really fast and kind of broke a knuckle. Through some clever maneuvering, Flash is able to kick Vandal out the door and into the hellscape. Wally heads to the hospital where Frankie meets him. He doesn't bother to hide his secret with the doctors who's treating him. They get it, and that's going to come into play, not this specific doctor, but the secret identity thing is going to be a theme for a while. They get a cab back to Frankie's apartment, where he reveals he won the lottery. Frankie handles the lotto ticket while Wally uses her Atari to get online and do some research. He digs up a Bert Villers whose gallery is closed now. So Wally accepts his winnings and takes Frankie out for a night on the town to celebrate his birthday properly. Unfortunately, Vandal is stalking them, confronting the pair at the crowded Club Neon. Wally changes into the Flash as Vandal starts throwing people out the window, like you do when you're the bad guy. Wally saves them while Frankie tries to keep Vandal busy with her magnetic powers. Wally kicks Vandal out the window this time, but he never hits the street. Wally and Frankie check into the Ritz, where he sleeps for over 20 hours. When he wakes up, he heads to Titan's Tower to check in with Cyborg, then goes out to buy a Porsche. Again, like you do, right? He swings by to pick up Frankie and take her someplace special, getting stuck in rush hour traffic along the way. When they finally arrive at their destination in Southampton, it's in front of a sprawling mansion that Wally has dubbed Shay Flash, letting Frankie know that it can be Shay Kane too, if she likes. So that is our second issue. So one of the things about going back to this era, compared to like Wade and post Wade, where Mesner Loebs did it too, but like the first person dialogue, the narration doesn't quite flow the way that it will later on, at least for me. And the dialogue can be a little stiff sometimes, a little disjointed. I'm trying to think of other Mike Baron, just regular comics that I've read, and nothing comes to mind. But it feels a little off at times. And just, it's the 80s. It's like, the 80s. The fashion, the technology, like reading that she's got an Atari and the Atari can get onto the internet. Like, I didn't know that was a thing in the late 80s, especially from an Atari. So that was interesting. Just, seeing the 80s fashions and stuff. It's easy to go back and read this, especially from like today, and just see why people called Wally a jerk, because it's definitely present there. He's definitely not as likable as like Barry would have been, and I can't imagine the shock it would have been back in 1987 to go from like wholesome Barry to this Flash who's a little more selfish and self-centered, and he comes off a little rude at times. So it's funny to look at that now and then knowing where the character is going to grow. Because if you were to just hand someone this issue and say, man, Wally West is my favorite character of all time, and then you hand someone this issue, they're going to be like, what's this dude's problem? So there's an arc, people, trust me. And if it ain't broke, don't fix it. Like, that's Wally's whole thing with Vandal Savage. He pushes him out of his apartment into the hellscape. That works. He pushes him out a window to get rid of him, and there we go. So no points for originality for you, Mr. West. Again, there's instances of the lightning bolt going a different way than what we think of the traditional way, different than the way Barry's costume was depicted, and that always that's a nerdy nitpick. That's on me. The art by Geis it's great. I mean, I like it. It's not who I think of, or it's not what I necessarily picture Wally West to look like when I read it. When I mentally picture him, that's probably more like LaRock or Waringo, or some of them, or Scott Collins, since I have so much of his art. But I mean, it's still the Flash. He looks good. It's just, he's not what I would put in my upper echelon of artists. Francis and Frankie. This whole time you're hearing me call Francis Kane Frankie. And that's from where I entered, or I really got into Wally West as the Flash in the Mark Waid era. And he made a comment about Francis, or by calling her Frankie, and then the whole letters page became a thing where they're like, why are you calling her Frankie? It's Francis. It's definitely Francis in this comic, but I think of her as Frankie Kane now, so it is kind of weird. But I'm calling her Frankie because that's what Wade called her. That's what, Wally called her. And you don't really get, other than, Wally's horny, like, you don't really get an idea of their relationship, other than he's got powers, she's got powers, they know each other. I don't know. It does a good job of further establishing how Wally's powers drain him when he uses them. It feels more scientific this way, that, he's going to sleep for 20 hours, that he's got to eat, 20 pizzas to get his speed up. Like, it's something that wasn't there before in the old comics. He could do whatever, and it didn't have any drain. So I like that they brought this aspect of realism, such as it is, to this character. So yeah, that was issue 2. It was an entertaining read. Not my favorite. It's always weird to go back to these because, like I said, Wally isn't necessarily the most likable. But, like, we all have our phases in life, and this is Wally's. And it's still entertaining. It's interesting, I guess. I don't know, I'm at a loss for words, but it's not necessarily a classic villain that I think of for Wally, even though, like I said, Vandal does show up much later in the series. Over the course of these 50 issues, he's in and out. But it's not like the next villain we're going to get to next issue, which I think of as a Wally villain, and then modern reinterpretations of certain characters. So, but that's another episode. So that is it for now, because I got to get ready to go see The Flash again. Yeah. So coming up, I think I will do like a full-on solo breakdown of what I thought of The Flash. If you guys care, I'll just throw out a bonus episode. My good buddy Paul Herman gave me an idea for a bonus episode that I'm going to try and shoot over the next week. And then, of course, we'll be back next time with issue 3. Oh, before we go, Flash 800 came out. Couldn't decide on what copy I wanted, so I bought several different copies. I'll show them off next time. But good read. Lots of good. I love the legacy stories from the past creators. I enjoyed the new team. Not sure how long I'm going to enjoy it for, but it was interesting. I'm curious to see where they go. So yeah, that's it, Flash fans. Take care of yourselves, and now you are up to speed with Wally West. Catch you next time.